We say we want to center entrepreneurship in the economy. Why isn't it already? We'll talk about that today on Builders Live. Hey, I'm Chris Hwang. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Technically, the news organization with a community of technologists and entrepreneurs. I just said the word already weird on the top. But the setup here is lots of people around the country, some sense the world, want to center entrepreneurship. This idea that, hey, the engine of economic growth starts with the creators, the commercializers of primary ideas. Got us thinking over here in the Builders Live group, why was it ever not? Where did we get led astray? Were we ever there before and we lost it? Or is there a strategy that we should be thinking about that should inform us? So to do that, my co-hosts, my friends, my expert panelists, Victor Hwang of Right to start, Rae'Mah Henderson, most recently of Techstars. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say where you are, Rae'Mah. You'll have to introduce yourself again. And Brackeen of Lightship Capital. Friends, thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Great to be back, Chris.
Same. So we're going to talk turkey here in a sec on why do all of us have work? Why isn't entrepreneurship already at the center of this stuff? But as always, I'd like to set things up with a bit of a palate cleanser. What's a bright light in ecosystem building or entrepreneurship-led economic development that you're seeing around the world? And Rae'Mah Henderson, perhaps also by way of reintroduction, lead me up. Give me a bright light and tell me how I'm allowed to introduce you now.
Okay, so that actually is a good point. So I'm now at a company called Innovate Alabama, which is really cool, helping with investing state and federal dollars in the state of Alabama.
Love that. Shout outs.
Which also is a good point for me to put in my disclaimer. Anything that I say in this podcast, you guys, is no reflection of the new organization that I work for.
Let's not get Rae'Mah canceled on her first week. All right, we'll give her a couple weeks.
And that was a human lawyer that told you to say that, not AI. So that's great.
Not AI at all. Not AI. Dang, a bright light. I'm going to actually shout out Anniston, Alabama. They just received some awards actually for my organization. I'm going to have to learn how to keep these things separate, but they just won a couple awards down there in Calhoun County, Alabama, in regards to some of the cool things that they're building now. They're in a various amount. There is a biking organization that received an award. And also there's a new big project called Earth. That's actually building out, I want to say over 50 acres of development for agricultural technology. So I'm going to shout them out.
Interesting. We love that. No, that's great. We love agriculture tech. All right. Victor, what do you guys got for bright lights? Shout out to Anniston, Alabama.
I like to go to places that Victor has been in the previous 6 weeks. That's like how I like to travel. Damn good time.
Like Victor's like your security detail. He makes sure 100%. Everything's all right.
He's the front man. Yeah. Is it safe? Is the food good? You know what I mean? And then I follow up behind that. And so Victor was in Wichita, Kansas recently, checking things out, as I recall. And yeah, I'm here today. It's great. It's great. We're doing a lot of cool things. Wichita State University is doing some amazing things with workforce development. Really, really enjoying that. But my bright light is something's coming up. Midwest House at South by Southwest. Us Midwesterners, we never talk about ourselves, ever. Ever. So this is our shot every year to share the innovations that are going on, whether it be from Wichita to Cincinnati to Detroit, Michigan, you name it, all in the same place with some great food, some good music, some good times. We're helping to put it on. So please come see us, and looking forward to seeing a whole bunch of friends at South by.
Love that. Love it. Victor.
I do love Midwestern t-shirts. They always have the best t-shirts. There's that store Ray Gun, which makes all those really funny Midwestern t-shirts. If you've never been there, check that out. I was just last week at the National Governors Association winter meeting, and I'm not saying this to brag about it, but to share the news, which is that the chairman of the National Governors Association, Kevin Stitt, governor of Oklahoma, has announced a governor's compact on entrepreneurship. So a few weeks ago, he signed an executive order to make put entrepreneurship as a top economic pillar of the state of Oklahoma.
Okay.
And now he wants all the governors to follow and do something to help entrepreneurs and sign on to this compact. And so my organization, Right to Start, is partnering with the National Governors Association to help get, hopefully all 50 governors and 5 territory governors to sign on to this. And we're going to need everyone's help to reach out to the governors and be part of this effort. But we could potentially have a massive movement of leadership on governors across the country doing things to help entrepreneurship. This executive order that Governor Stitt, it covered, he's creating a chief entrepreneurial officer. He's lowering the cost of business to $1 in Oklahoma. He's going to open up government contracting, open up the educational system to put more entrepreneurial skills in place, data tracking for entrepreneurs, deferring waiving taxes for entrepreneurs in the beginning, other stuff too. A one-stop shop. It's a massive executive order and huge for entrepreneurship.
I'll point out you look great in a tie, Victor. Well done.
I was dying.
You look great. And kind of a fun, I mean, maybe I'll make this a bright light, though it's not my intention, but I did, I was kind of coincidentally and separately interviewing Delaware Governor Matt Meyer. I brought up Right to Start, by the way. But I asked him about Kevin Stitt. I said, fellow governor, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt is doing this. What do you think about all that? And what I thought was beautiful, a thing that the 4 of us say a lot, but it was nice to see in action, was pragmatic, democratic Governor Matt Meyer describing how lots of things happening, which I'm going to leave out of this conversation. But he and Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt disagree about a lot, but he's like, entrepreneurship, economic development, these are things that governors, which tend to have to be relatively pragmatic people, whether you like that or not, are serious about this work. And so we say that a lot. It was nice to get 2, chief executives of states saying it. So well done, Victor.
Oh yeah. The one other really cool thing, just for 10 seconds, Governor
Please.
Stitt and the vice chair, the incoming chair, is Governor Wes Moore of Maryland, and they're so cooperative. They're genuine friends. They're bipartisan. They're very, practical and problem-solving oriented. It was refreshing, honestly, to kind of hear that from the two consecutive chairs of the NGA, in such a collaborative way. And I actually have a renewed sense of hope for America, seeing what that generation of executives coming up looks like. It's really very exciting.
Well, that's a heck of a setup. So we'll use that as bright light. I'll do the general call out. We've done this before. I think we did it last year, but I'll call it a bright light. I'm always excited by the national convenings that bring so many of us and our work together. I know in the fall, Black Tech Week, we'll be back, but Monday I'm at IEDC's Leadership Summit, Monday, Tuesday, and GN in New Orleans. Technically is having our builders conference, as we mentioned, with the 4 of us doing things live. But I'll call that a bright light. I like that these convenings happen. I'm excited for next week to talk to a lot of people about this work. So shout outs all around. All right. Those are our bright lights. Set it aside. The palate is cleansed. I need you guys to help me understand something. And Victor, I'm coming right at you, right out the gates here. You're my quasi historian on the subject matter. I was in a bunch of conversations.
Is that an age reference, Chris?
No.
Okay.
No, it is a smarts reference.
Oh, okay.
And I'm, doing the normal small talk. We're like, oh, is ecosystem polarizing for these folks? Is entrepreneurship-led economic development too clunky? Oh, but these terms are helpful for the right rooms, which I think is the right answer. But then someone said to me, why isn't entrepreneurship even added on to the phrase? Why isn't entrepreneurship just economic development? Why is there entrepreneurship-led economic development? I was like, that's a great question. Because we saw in the 80s, we added the word tech, right? There was that period of technology-led economic development, which made a kind of sense. There was a logic of like, these are emerging fields and industries. That made sense. But in some sense, entrepreneurship shouldn't make sense because there's nothing emerging about it. It's always the new stuff, but it's always been there. So Victor, I wonder if you could help me as a starting point. Why isn't entrepreneurship already at the center? Why do you have a job? Why does your job exist? Shouldn't it have already happened?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in that question, and
that's so polite of you to say it like that.
Yeah, there's a lot. I would say if you had to pick one thing, like one reason, it's because the economy shifted. If you look at the economic development complex and the way it's been built up over the last 100 years, and you can look at the articles by Del Gines, who's written a great history about it. Del Gines at the International Economic Development Council. He's got 4 waves of economic development, and the current wave is around entrepreneurial ecosystems. But what those waves match is the way economies functioned at the time. And so going back last century, the original focus was on industrial development and building the big companies, like scaling up, building companies on a scale to build big, high quality things that had never existed before, and the infrastructure it took to make that happen, which meant that what you wanted was big companies and hiring lots of people to help build that work. And so economic development came out of that, attraction, subsidizing big companies. Then it's shifted more towards technology, because that's where the internet, IT, software development started booming, and people saw that the more tech development happened, the more wages went up, jobs were created, and so that became the focus. And now what's happened is those software tools have become very distributed now. Everyone's business now is internet powered. We all have access to supercomputer tools of the past. And so the shift now is, how do you give everybody that power that we were thinking of big companies needed back then? And so the shift now is everybody is a company, right? My friend Andy Stoll likes to say people are the new companies. And so I think that's really been the shift, is we've gone from industrial era thinking to now, everyone is a knowledge worker and has the power to create anything in the world and sell it anywhere and talk to anyone in the world for next to nothing. So that is an entrepreneurial environment. And if you don't get there, if you don't support that, then you're still stuck in the economy of a few decades ago.
Couple things. One, shout out to Annika Horn, friend of the show, whose interview with Dell had that call out. We'll drop the link in the show notes of that. But maybe you won't know the answer to this, because I've seen Dell's work for sure. He was at our Builders Conference last year, spoke to him, great, all that stuff. When we talk about the research that I've read too, Victor, what occurred to me when this person asked me this, the numbers of, the net new jobs are heavily created by new firms, that 1% increase in entrepreneurial activity reflects a reduction in poverty. These obviously, because it's good academic research, are time bound. They're looking at a particular period. So when this person asked me this question, it got me thinking, like, well, do we assume it was always true? Or when you describe the economy changing, Victor, do you also mean to imply the multiplier effects of new firms do we assume, maybe there's a paper, I didn't find this paper. Do we assume that entrepreneurship always had this superpower and we've just only recently discovered it? Or do you mean that the superpower is emerging because of, the yellow sun or whatever?
We're pretend nerds. There are academics who have studied this.
All right, so I'll find that for the follow-up piece.
Yeah, no, I think the data does show that going back several decades now, at least, how entrepreneurship has been critical to job growth, productivity growth, income growth, all these things. Whether that matches during the industrial era, I don't know what the studies are around that. Yeah, so I think there's a lot. We could do a whole episode on just economic job data on stuff like that.
And don't threaten me with a good time, Victor. All right, I'll widen it a bit. Sorry for zooming in there a sec, but it just hit me like a lightning bolt when I got asked that struck me as interesting. So, all right, Brian Rae'Mah, bring me back to sanity here. Brian, what's kind of your gut, at least, in terms of, did we discover entrepreneurship's superpower or did we create it? Is it new or was it always there?
Mr. Philly guy, historian, you go way back. Entrepreneurship was the only form of economic mobility in the 1920s, 1910s, right? And these large corporations, conglomerates have grown over time, particularly in industrialization and also in the 50s. And of course, now this new non-regulated period where all mergers are approved and, all these things. So I think we always had it in us, and it was how the country was kind of formed and created. I think the difference, though, is how we talk about it, how sexy it is, it being okay to fail. Different cultures have kind of established are more entrepreneurial than others because of their agency in the world, and so it's evolving. But I think it's always been there.
Rae'Mah, give me your perspective from Alabama. Is entrepreneurship getting closer to the center of the conversation you experience in Alabama, in policymaking circles and civic circles and wherever you want to reflect, in your social circles? Talk to me about rising, falling, the moment that we're in, and entrepreneurship's relationship to it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we are in a moment where a lot of us are shifting towards entrepreneurs. I think we're just learning that there's so many different archetypes when it comes to entrepreneurship. And I think the issue that not just like ecosystems like in Alabama, but probably across the world, we talked about it on a couple podcasts back. I think it's actually a Technically report where you talk about like we're at the highest number of entrepreneurs in the country or something like that in this current place. I think what ecosystems fail to realize is that is a spectrum. And so what they come to learn is that sometimes what entrepreneur may mean to somebody else, maybe it means startup founder and operating at a very high level. They have all these resources, and then we come to really realize that maybe, see y'all, I'm so nervous because I'm talking from my new job. I'm like, Lord, please don't.
No, I don't make you in trouble. I'm also throwing for listeners. Boy, am I just throwing the three of them into the deep end on this. So like,
I'm like, this has no implication on where I work, just so you know.
This is why no one should ever do a podcast with the journalist, because he'll just come in and be like, this is the hardest question I could possibly work on right now. Please answer it for me.
Yeah, I think, I guess the point that I was trying to, get to is more so just sometimes people start to realize, I think, especially in these smaller ecosystems like my own, is that entrepreneurship just means you don't got no job right now. And there's these varying levels of unseriousness. The Love is Blind is a new show that's out on Netflix right now. And this will be my young person tidbit, because everyone likes to talk about the job positions of the men that are on the show. And so if somebody says, oh, he's an entrepreneur, he ain't got no job. If it says consultant, he ain't got no job. And so I think there's a little bit of like, how serious do we take these entrepreneurs? Because not all of them are operating at the same level. And then they just lean towards this higher tip of archetype where there's serious funding involved, where there's serious growth and traction and jobs that they're bringing to the local ecosystem, which I think is unfair, because then we leave out a lot of people.
Wow. All right. Rae'Mah, that was actually great. You just rerouted the questions I want us to roll. I need to get to. Hold on. You just rerouted me. I love it. This is an act of journalism now.
Can I say, I'm worried about the dating lives of all the entrepreneurs out there now after doing that.
Not good.
That sounds awful. That's awful.
Yeah, if you don't have no pitch book page, you ain't got no job.
Clip that. Somebody clip that. That's good. Oh, man, I'm loving that. Rae'Mah, you're spitting gold. All right. You can't even help it. You can't even control. You can't contain yourself. Let me throw a hot take at you and get a reaction. I'm circulating. I'm getting people's feedback. You can yell at me about it. Our tribe, ecosystem building, which I think is a good and right phrase for the moment now. I do think it's the right one. It's the right metaphor. It works. We know that for most of the world, it's not. They don't know what the hell that means. That's fine. Like, there's translation. That all makes sense to me. One thing I worry about us in ecosystem building is when we frame it like, how do we fund this work? Or everyone's piecing it together, because I feel like we sometimes reinforce the idea that we're this little thing over here. When I think we should be saying, no, we're coming for the whole throne. Because this is what economic development is. We need to stop being like, oh, I wonder if I could get another, like, is it everything else around, as I understand it, everything else around economic development is a distraction. That the focus is higher quality entrepreneurship, better supported to get their best chance at winning, and making it okay to close and go to the next thing if it ain't working. Churn, activity, rise of new business. It needs to be at the center of economic development. So I worry about whenever we frame, we're just piecing it together over an ecosystem building. Are we accepting too little as ecosystem builders? Can we demand more? Should we demand more? Are we demanding more? Help me. Maybe, Brian, I may want to go to you on this, like, as my resident bomb thrower. Can we demand more?
I'm saying the question, though, is to who? Demand more to who, right?
All right, here's my answer.
Yes.
I tallied up for a piece I'm working on. I actually shout out to a friend of the show, Mo Collins, who got me some research that I've been finding around tallying up all states' economic development dollars. Got about $500 billion in economic development spent across 50 states. Big variation, of course, and there's a lot in there. There's incentive subsidy schemes. There's site development, some of which is fine and good. You know, some of it you must do.
I'd love to see that data, by the way. That's the nerd. Yeah. I would love
all right.
To see
Yeah, I mean, it's going to inform a piece that I'm trying to put together. And my best math is 1% of it. This is a number I'm trying to get to, so don't fact check me yet. But the rough math in the spreadsheet is maybe 1% of it at most goes to what I think we would mean by entrepreneurial activity. So what do I mean, Brian? I mean that it's insane whenever I hear, how do we fund this work? We figured out the work, the funding mechanism a century ago. Taxing strategies, non-governmental, it is economic development. It's $500 million industry. That is the thing. What we do with those dollars is, I think, what we're changing. So I think the funding is there. It's what we do with it. So to push it back to you, Brian, the answer is make the 1% go to 15 or 25% or 50% or more. Focus it. Well, 25%.
A mere 25%.
Yeah.
A modest increase of 24%.
We shouldn't be playing for scraps in the economic development table. We should say this is the main course.
I would argue that not only is that correct, society's at a breaking point, right? There is no more juice to squeeze from this orange in the last model. It is redesign, or society will redesign you, right? Right.
Victor,
that's bomb throwing for you there.
That's what we need in this.
They've been squeezing the juice for a long time now, and it's not working anymore. Yeah, that's 1% is about right. At Right Start, we talk about 5% to start. Can we just get to 5%? But I think the deeper issue you're getting at is around narrative, because when people even today still talk about economic development, the default understanding is, well, that's incentives and subsidies and attraction tools to bring big companies over. And what we really need to do is to shift the narrative about where economic growth comes from, and that permeates all the way from local mayors and governors all the way to the National Economic Council, to the American Economic Association. They are that whole paradigm. It's like a whole intellectual thought complex. They are still stuck in the old narrative of that's not economic growth and entrepreneurship are delinked. And that narrative has to be relinked, because I think so. It's really fundamentally it's a storytelling exercise. I don't know if you know any journalists around that could help tell that story.
Trying.
Yeah, but I think that's really it. And we need to get out of our niche stuff and really, I love the idea of going for the crown. I mean, this has to be a reset of how we think of economic prosperity today. You cannot think of it the way it was thought of 30 or 40, 50 years ago, but we still do.
I feel like we haven't been nerdy enough yet. So I'd like to triple down.
Let's go for it. I'm there. We're there.
One of my favorite books of the last few years, William Magnuson's academic, I'm going to forget where he was, but shout out to him, 2022 book called For Profit, This is like one of the 3 books that my wife most makes fun of me for reading. For Profit: History of Corporations. History of Corporations. That and The History of the Horse are the 2 books that my wife most makes fun of me for reading. But the upshot that I thought was so important from this 2022 book is like, it's a Roman concept, but has other forms. But we invented the idea of this kind of private enterprise as a means to extend the state's goals. If it was tax collection in Roman times, if it was colonization and conquest in kind of Western European powers, if it was Lincoln chartering railroad companies, the purpose was to reach some social goal. Profit maximizing wasn't its purpose. Its purpose was, there are things that we think accessing and pooling capital together and putting people on a little mission was a great way to go accomplish some goal. And I want to us to talk about that when we're talking about entrepreneurship. One reason that I think we should be able to get more people excited by is what I think of entrepreneurship as is trying to send out these little expeditions into the world to go solve some problem. And one reason we would tease the 12th food delivery app is because at some point we're like, well, that's not the problem we need. We want smart people, bands, to go out in an expedition and go fight for something, which I don't think has to be seen as social entrepreneurs. We can just say, like, we want you to solve whatever. And I'm wondering how much in your work, the 3 of you, do you think we've lost sight of the purpose? And that's one reason I find that I can't get people excited by entrepreneurship, or they don't get it, is they just think of it as a bunch of people trying to make money, not solve a problem. And how are you guys seeing that? Or how do you guys talk about this making this work more important?
Yeah. I would say one thing I'm coming to learn, especially over the past year, is I don't think some of our ecosystem resources know how to market to founders. And it's almost like the people that receive a box of something new that they have to put together, and it's like, who's going to read the instructions? And I find that you either have the same crop of founders that are going to pursue the resources, or you got the scammers who are going to pursue the resources. And so you miss this really grand group that could really use the resources. I think we're going to have to redesign, how do we get in front of the right founders? And I think the structured approach that most of our agencies are pursuing, it just isn't going to work. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to handle the private chat going on right now. I love you guys so much. I'm like, wait, what is
experience, Rae'Mah?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to pass it over. I'm going to pass it over to Victor.
The chat thread is lit here.
Just so the people, we got to leave the people wanting more. You don't know what's happening in the back of the chat. Team, squad.
How
do you sell entrepreneurship, Victor? You've been there for 100 years.
I've been doing it for 100 years.
Yeah.
I think it's the whole idea of calling right to start was to change the fundamental narrative. Because when you go and you start saying to people, hey, we encourage you to be an entrepreneur and to start a business, or it becomes about making money or earning a living, which is inherent. It's good to make, but at a deeper level.
Victor, the new right to start tagline is, it is good to make money.
It's good to make money. But it ends up sort of making it feel too clinical. It's cold. It's just transactional. And so we call it right to start because it's really acknowledging a much deeper fundamental human thing, which is that the entrepreneurial urge, the urge to create, to build, to make something better in the world, to bring it to life, that is so fundamentally human. And the word entrepreneur almost takes it and it sort of makes it feel like a doctor's office. It's just oh, that's just so, what's fun about that? But when you go back to it's what makes you human. It's what makes humans different from every other animal on earth, is we can conceive of something better and we can make it happen. There's something magical about it. And I think that's what's been lost in entrepreneurship. It's been clinicized as opposed to turned into something that's very deep and profound. And so that's a narrative question, which is how do we shift it from, make more money, which is good again, but But to transcend that even further, right? It's about realizing, your visions for what life can be, controlling your destiny, taking ideas, bringing them to life, making things better. And that I think has not happened yet. And I think that's what we have to do, is sort of get back to the roots of what makes entrepreneurship so special.
So can I build on that and then set up Brian to react? Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Victor. If you get onboarded as a technically reporter, any technically teammate, here's how we set up why we think entrepreneurship matters. Because I think it's all wrong when we lead with the wealth creation, which is, I think, I understand why, but it's where we usually start, right? If you push someone on a panel who is unprepared, why does entrepreneurship matter in these circles? They'll be like, oh, well, it creates wealth, and then other people can get wealth too. And I'm like, I think that turns off more people than you realize. We think it's a grand bargain, as that's why I love that 2022 book, because it points it out. But 3 things that I think matter, that I think research backed, and there's a 4th that entrepreneurs get. It's primarily how we bring ideas to market. Flatly and simply, I think we should focus on that. Why do we care about entrepreneurship? It's the mechanism we have for taking invention, a COVID-19 vaccine or a better way to fill up water balloons. It's how we take an idea and how we bring it to market. Okay, cool. 2, the data on job creation, that net new job creation come from new firms. So we care about entrepreneurship because that's not bigger firms. It's a churn of new that get you more jobs. And then 3, the research that is most interesting and still kind of developing, the dynamism effect, that typically just new stuff begets more new stuff. So if you want more of the 2, it's kind of this the flywheel effect. So we say, why do you care about entrepreneurship? Ideas to market, job creation, and dynamism. It gets you more. And then in exchange for doing that, society has a contract that says, we'll let you get wealthy, maybe. And that's the kind of lore. And then, sure, there are some social goods from that, but I think we need to reposition that as kind of the deal we're offering. So then we can put pressure on entrepreneurs too and say, we expect you to solve problems, bring an idea. We expect you to have some job creation. We expect you to be pro-social and create dynamic effects. And that's why we are okay with you getting wealthy. If you're just getting wealthy, I don't think we should defend it. It's only if it's doing this kind of greater social good. And that is the framework that I'm hoping to take into whatever happens in the future with entrepreneurship, to say, my defense of entrepreneurship is incumbent on those things, that you are solving problems we need solving, that you're creating jobs, and that you're helping spark others. If you're not doing those things, I'm not interested. So, Brian, let's pretend you just got onboarded as, the new Ohio reporter for Technically, and you get that slide. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Talk to me.
I'm going to drop a bomb and then
we want just bombs when we record.
So that last promise you talked about, that kind of inherent societal promise you described, it's important because the first societal promise, which is the American dream, feels either unattainable or a lie to generations as they get further and further from that, best generation of all time, right? And so that may be the last or the newest promise that you get. And because it's so unlikely that you take a job at a place and work there for 20 years and that your income or quality of life or doing better than your parents is most likely, according to the data, only even 50% chance of that actually happening, making more money than your parents. In the 1920s and 30s, it was 92%. You were almost guaranteed to do better than your parents, right? And that 50%, it's going to 40, it's going to 30, it's just going to go down. Victor, it's going down from there. So this new promise that you described, Chris, is the fabric that holds us together. It has to be the way forward for everyone.
Ooh. Could I double click on what Brian just said? I definitely feel like many people also feel like the American dream is like the original MLM. It's that's just
dang.
Oh my God.
Somebody get Rae'Mah podcast.
Yeah. Wow.
Don't give me a podcast. I'm literally behind the scenes. I'm I don't know if I can keep doing this to myself every month. Coming on this podcast.
I'm here a lot for Brian and Victor, but a lot for Rae'Mah. Keep it going.
I'm here for Rae'Mah. So
I love you all. But I guess additionally, sometimes what we don't talk about when we sell entrepreneurship is like an opportunity to wealth build. We don't realize, especially when it's pitched to many times people who have their families haven't had the opportunity or have yet to succeed in building generational wealth, that they hit a lot of money wounds of like, money is evil. So if I go and do this thing, I'm going to be now playing for the other team. And even when they bypass that fear and they're like, I'm going to do it, I'm still going to build it, I'm going to use my genius to put something out into the world. Many founders who I talk to who have this golden retriever attitude and don't want to do any harm in the world, they're like, I have a cap though. Like, I can only sell for 100 million. 100 million? That's too much money. Anything beyond that is too much. And so it's very interesting because we have to like attack that too. It's a mindset thing, I find.
Mindset. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, Victor. I mean, let me set you up differently, because here's my build on Rae'Mah's point. Anyone who does this work knows, like, entrepreneurs are a big category, and there be angels and devils in their midst. And I have met lots of entrepreneurs who I view as greedy, dead-eyed sociopaths, and I have met entrepreneurs who care about nothing more than maniacally solving some problem. And I think society very much wants to find a way to give them their path to just like go insanely focused on some sort of problem. So Victor, how do you weigh? You represent a very big class of people who come from all different kinds of backgrounds in good ways, have all kinds of different motivations, which can be a mixed bag.
Look, there are bad entrepreneurs, and just like there are bad everything else. So, and you know, if people just want to make money, you can't blame sharks for wanting to eat things. Sharks eat, so it's just it's nature, and it's part of the natural order of things, that it's kind of a little of everything, or a lot of everything. I think it goes to
how come you guys are also motherfucking quotable?
Well, I think it goes to this issue of the social contract, because what's happened is that we've created an implied social contract unintentionally. It's like it just happened. And the social contract of the American dream, quote unquote, is that if you just study hard and work hard, you'll get a job and you play by the rules and you'll build a good life. And if you look at the entire K through 12 system, the higher ed system, it's basically training you to be employed. And the social, and you go to the the recruitment office in a college, and it's all about, here's how you get employed by whatever companies. The social contract, the real American dream, going back to like first principles, the promise of the American dream was that you get to build your own life, right? You get to control your destiny. It's not, study hard, work hard, and get employed, and and retire nicely. But it became that because that's what the big companies needed. It's what the system, industrial system wanted. We have to reset that very social contract, the narrative. The social contract, as you're putting it, Chris, is right, which is, if you've got an idea to make things better, you have a responsibility to to give that thing a shot, right? Whether or not it works or not, you can't just sit on it. And it's both your right and your freedom to do so, but also your obligation to society to take a shot with that thing. It could be a side hustle. You don't need to give up your life, but at the same time, we need to make sure we meet you there too. You need to have access to healthcare. You can't, be throwing yourself off a cliff. You have to know that it's a fair playing field for getting a contract, whether it's the government or a big corporation. You need to feel like, you've got a fair fight. And we have not cast the narrative that way, but that's what the social contract should be. And if you talk to people, that's kind of what they think it should be too. If you poll people, that's what they think it should be too. It's just that the system that has evolved is not that at all.
My dear colleague, Sam Markowitz, shout out Sam, who helps produce this, doesn't want me to exclaim as much as I do after you guys talk, because I often ruin our clips by expressing my enthusiasm with your comments. So I apologize to Baptist church vibe that I do. Yeah, I'm always doing it. I'm like, yeah, go get him, Victor. Yeah, I'm at it. Rae'Mah, Victor, and Brian Brackeen, who is actively boarding a plane. Thank you guys. You get me excited. You get me riled up. This was a romp.
We got to save America. We got to save the American dream.
Okay. We got to do it, y'all.
I both know you're a little bit joking, Victor, but what you see in me is I think I feel a impatience growing in me that for having done this work for a while myself, I am here because I was pretty genuinely convinced this was important. It's why I'm here. And so I find myself in rooms being like, if it's as important as we say it is, why aren't we going faster? And I sometimes am increasingly finding that there are some people in groups that I think are kind of pretending, or it's kind of like theater. It's kind of like, it sounds good and sounds nice, but I'm kind of comfy where I am, whereas things are. And I am finding that as a kind of interesting dynamic that not everyone who says they believe centering entrepreneurship and making it accessible is as serious as they say it. And that's a messy thing, which I hope we'll also talk about in future episodes, including seeing us live at the Technically Builders Conference in Philadelphia for the US Semi-Quincentennial, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. We'll drop links. We're speaking live on Thursday, May 7th. The stars will be out. Actually, Raymond, Victor, one thing I was going to say at this point promoting this, and it's a shame Brian's not here. I'll tease it. You guys might remember that Brian and I have a bet for whether there will be more software developers in April 2026 than there were in April 2025. And to make sure there's no doubt about the veracity of the date, I have enlisted a actual trained certified economist who will be joining us on stage to give us the real, final, and official verdict on this debate. So,
but you are paying him. There's no bias in that whatsoever.
No, I want to say the entity, but I haven't finalized which of the two. But I'm trying to get a very prestigious entity that would absolutely not let me pay them. But I think it would be very funny to get a very serious reading on this bet. So there'll be economists, there'll be ecosystem builders, there'll be entrepreneurs. Could you imagine a more nerdy?
That sounds like fire, as the kids say.
Fire. It's gonna be a vibe.
It's gonna be a vibe. Rae'Mah Henderson of Innovate Alabama, Victor Hwang, Right to Start, Brian Brackeen recently departed us from Lightship Capital. He's still alive. He just went to a plane. Rae'Mah, Victor, Brian, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Chris.
Fun as always. See you next time.
Bye. See you next one.